Om Tadekam Smaramas-tadekam Bhajamaha Tadekam Jagat Sakshi Rupam Namamaha Sadekam Nidhanam Niralambamisham Bhavam Bodhiputam Sharanyam Vrajamaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. On that alone do we meditate, that alone do we worship, to that alone, the witness of the universe, do we bow, to that one who is our sole eternal support, the self-existent Lord, the raft to safety across the ocean of this world, do we come for refuge. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good morning. Wonderful to be here in Santa Barbara. We were just here celebrating the worship of the Divine Mother, and we'll be celebrating Divine Mother's worship in Hollywood on Tuesday night with the annual Kali Puja. Those of you who are bold and ready to stay up all night, please join us. Our topic today is unleashing the power to choose. Unleashing the power to choose, to make choices. We always have that choice. Our opening prayer says, we take refuge in that one reality. We turn always to that one reality. We have that choice. How do we unleash our power to choose the right thing to do, what to do? And thinking about this topic, the first incident that comes to mind is in the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna, the great warrior, is about to enter the big battle that they've been preparing for decades, because the bad guys, the Kauravas, are just unwilling to even grant them 5 little villages, the good guys being the Pandavas. And so it finally comes to the battle, which is described in the Mahabharata. And on the eve of, just before the battle begins, Arjuna has Krishna as his charioteer, and he says, "Hey Krishna, let's go see who we're going to fight here. Let's go see these bad guys who we're going to whip." And so they go out into the middle of the battlefield, and Arjuna sees who is in the opposing army. All his very known people, his relatives, his own kinsmen. And suddenly he feels like, how can I do this? How can I kill all these people? These are my teacher is there, who taught me archery. He's in the opposing team. He sided with the bad guys, and there was no other option. But still, now I find myself in this situation. I don't know what to do. I can't fight. I don't know what to do. And he collapses, paralyzed, on the floor of his chariot, drops his weapons. He doesn't know what to do. And he finally asks Sri Krishna, "Please help me." So sometimes it seems like we find ourselves in a similar situation. We're faced with some kind of decision, and we become paralyzed. We don't know what to do. How do we gain the clarity of mind and the power of right action, of right knowing and right action to do what's right, to choose what's right? Arjuna comes up with all kinds of arguments for why he can't possibly fight, but they're all based on a misunderstanding of his proper duty. So it's a very interesting incident, and of course we know that Sri Krishna guides him and helps him to see clearly and to understand, and then he fights the battle with a clear mind and a clear heart. But what do we do when we're in a similar situation? On the other side of the spectrum, we have someone like Swami Mahayogananda, one of the founding monks of our order, a knower of God, not merely a saint, but a saint maker. There's an incident recorded by Swami Prabhavananda, the Swami who founded this center, when he was a novice and he was attending on Swami Brahmananda in Madras. And Swami Brahmananda called for the almanac to be brought and leafed through it a little bit and said, all right, we'll fix our date of departure for such and such a date. And Swami Prabhupada started to smile. And Swami Brahmananda noticed, why are you smiling? Oh, Maharaj, you always do this. They used to call him Maharaj. Oh, Maharaj, you always do this. You look at the almanac and you fix a date, but you never end up going on that day. So I'm laughing. And Swami Brahmananda said, you see, everybody pesters me to fix a date, so I fix a date to satisfy them. But I don't move without the direct command of God. I don't move without the direct command of God. So he'll move when the divine guides him, inspires him from within to move. So it's interesting, on both ends of the spectrum, there's no question of choice. Arjuna is unable to make a choice, and Swami Brahmananda has no need to make a choice. He's so in tune with the divine that he simply follows the dictates of God. But for the rest of us, we're caught in between these two extremes, and we are mostly not paralyzed like Arjuna, and yet we're not hearing the voice of God telling us what to do. And if someone says that he or she is, then we think probably he should go see a doctor. So, so I gave a lot of thought to this topic, how this idea of choice, and mostly it struck me that most people don't exercise this power of choice, of choosing. We just go through life and don't really make any the biggest choice we might make is, well, should we have the frozen lasagna tonight or the frozen chicken? You know, that kind of that's not a choice. That's this can lead to a kind of dissatisfaction when we don't, even with the big decisions. We are faced sometimes with big decisions. Should I get married? Should I marry this person or that person? Should I take the job in Los Angeles or New York or stay here in Santa Barbara? Should I join the monastery or join the army? These kind of questions do come to us, and oftentimes people don't know how to choose, so they don't. It's also a kind of choice. They choose not to choose. And the life just goes on. It unfolds according to nature. It unfolds according to our own unconscious impulses, desires, what we call in Sanskrit, in Vedanta, we call it samskaras, the tendencies which we built up ourselves within us through repeated actions. So this really leads to dissatisfaction. So how do we proceed? How do we think about this? Most of our actions throughout the day are simply based on habit. We're faced throughout the day with choices, as it were, like, if we had to choose everything, we would be stuck, we would be paralyzed. Say, should I brush my teeth before I take a shower or after I take a shower? We don't have to decide that, we do that by habit. And that's perfectly normal. And everybody here, I'm sure, does it in the same order every day. At least I know I do. First, I brush my teeth and I take a shower. You might do it opposite. There's nothing good or bad about it. It's just a habit. It helps us get through the day. And if we're getting up on the right side of the bed or the left side of the bed, we don't think about it. Today, yesterday wasn't good. Maybe today I should get up on the left side of the bed instead of the right side, because the right side of the bed wasn't the right, maybe it wasn't the right side actually. We don't think about that. We just get up at the same side of the bed every day. And that's perfectly normal. And then certain skills like driving, we're driving and the red lights, the brake lights on the car in front of us light up. We don't have to think, ooh, what should we do? We immediately, without thinking, the foot goes off the accelerator and goes to the brake. And depending on how quickly we're approaching that car, we automatically know how hard to press the brake. These are perfectly normal and good habits that we develop to get through life. But this same sort of, when we apply this same kind of habitual activity towards certain other areas, then it becomes a problem. Because it's not just in the area of little actions like this that we have a choice. We also have a choice in what we say, what words we choose to speak. And here it becomes much more delicate, because we're continually interacting with other people and facing challenges to our way we are going to respond. And very often we may feel like responding unkindly with a word of anger. And that becomes a habit. And we do it unconsciously. Someone says something a little bit unkind, and our immediate response is to say something unkind in return, without even thinking about it. We have this choice to respond with compassion, to respond with forgiveness, with loving words, or maybe with joking words, or cajoling words, or teasing words, or angry words. If we're going to respond with angry words, let it be a conscious choice. And then we have also the choice to what to think. At least it seems like we have the choice what to think. We think that we have the choice what to think, and yet everyone who practices meditation knows how difficult it is to choose our own thoughts. The mind seems to have a mind of its own. And we want to think something. We're going to meditate. We want to think of the divine. We want to focus our mind on a holy name of the divine. And somehow the flow of thoughts drags us away. And suddenly, before we know it, we're at the grocery store deciding what we need to buy for tonight's supper. We're still sitting on our cushion or on our meditation chair, and yet we're at the grocery store choosing whether we want to get the broccoli or the cabbage or whatever it may be. We get completely lost in that flow of thought, that unconscious flow of thought, and fall into an unconscious reverie. So, who's in charge? Who's in charge? Do we have a choice? I had an interesting experience, a rather unsettling experience a few weeks ago. I have the habit every morning of taking a walk. And it's a fixed habit. Right after my morning meditation, 7:30, I get up, I go for a walk, I take the same route. I don't have to think about, should I turn left or right here? I take the same route. And I get back just in time for breakfast in the monastery. Now, if I go just a little early, sometimes I'm just a little ahead of time, maybe I'm walking faster, there's a certain point where I can turn left and add an extra loop to my walk. It takes about another 5 minutes. So if I'm in time, I'll check the time when I reach that juncture. If I have the time, I'll make the extra loop. But other days, I'll realize I won't get back in time for breakfast, so I'll skip it. Usually I skip it. Every now and then I do it. Now, a few weeks ago, I got out of the temple a little early. And so I thought to myself as I was starting the walk, oh, I can take that extra loop. And I went on with my walk. And that day, as often happens, I was thinking about other things, and I was lost in my own thoughts. And when I came back to awareness of what I'm doing, I'm walking, and where I am, I realized I had taken that turn. I had taken that turn for the extra loop of my walk, which I very rarely do. It happens maybe 2 or 3 times a month. But I had taken that turn, and it really unsettled me. I was, wow, I took the turn without actually consciously deciding to do it. I had told myself that I could do it today when I started the walk. I had planted that seed, but when it actually came time, it was unconscious. I did it without even realizing. And suddenly I came back to awareness of the here and now and realized, oh my gosh, I've done it. Who's in charge? What's guiding me? Is it just is it all unconscious? And I think for most of us, most of the time, the answer is a frightening yes. Most of the time we go through life completely unconscious, just just like that, our thoughts somewhere else and body going through the motions, mind going through its motions. So, gosh, it's a really sobering thought to realize that. So, you know, we feel like we're free, and yet it looks like maybe a lot of the time we're not. Swami Vivekananda puts it this way: with every breath, with every pulsation of the heart, with every one of our movements, we think we are free. And the very same moment, we are shown that we are not. Bound slaves, nature's bond slaves, in body, in mind, in all our thoughts, in all our feelings. And this is Maya. He calls it Maya. It's a term in Vedanta. I think we know it, those of us who have been studying. This kind of inexplicable contradiction that we feel we are free and yet we see we are bound by our own habits, by our own tendencies, unconscious. So what does Swami Vivekananda say? He says, wake up, break up out of this unconscious living. Uttishtata jagrata, says the Upanishad, which Swamiji used to love to quote this line. Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. Arise out of this unconscious living. I have this image in my mind of some primordial lizard dragging itself out of the primeval muck of the jungle of billions of years ago and coming out into the sunlight and the oxygen, dragging itself out of the primeval mud. No? That's where we are. We are in this mud of unconsciousness, and we need to arise and awake. Now, when thinking about choice, the power to choose, the next incident which comes naturally to my mind is the young boy Nachiketa meeting his teacher Yama, the god of death, in the Katha Upanishad. And we know how Nachiketa was offered 3 boons by Yama, and he was granted the first 2, and then the 3rd boon he asked for was to know the secret of death, to know the truth about who he really is, to know, am I just a body? When I die, is that it? Is it over? Or is there something more to me? And Nachiketa, Yama rather, he's eminently qualified to answer this question, but he wants to make sure that Nachiketa really wants to know. So he says, don't ask that. That's really difficult to know about. Ask for something else. And he offers him all the possible, imaginable good things that anyone could want in this world. He says, ask for a long life, as long as you want. Ask to live as long as you want. You want to live 100 years, 500 years? Ask for that. Ask for a kingdom. Ask for 10 kingdoms. Ask for as much gold and cows. In those days they measured wealth in cows. Ask for as many cows as you want. See these heavenly damsels? They can be your attendants. Heavenly damsels and dancers and musicians. Everything that you want. All the enjoyable things in this world. Take those. Don't ask about death. And Nachiketa, he says, nope, I don't want those things. I understand that all those things are temporary, that they're not going to give me true, lasting peace. I want to know this thing which I'm asking about. And Yama is then very pleased. His disciple has passed the test, and he then starts his teaching by really appreciating Nachiketa's power to choose. He has chosen what in Yama uses the language. He has chosen Shreyas over Preyas. Now Shreyas is that which leads us to blessedness. The truly good, that which is truly helpful for us. And Preyas is that which is merely pleasant. It may seem good, but it doesn't help us in the long run. It's merely pleasant, it's pleasurable. We have a choice every moment between the electable and the delectable. Shreyas and Preyas. And let me chant the verses, they're so wonderful. Yama says, Anyat Shreyo Nyadutaiva Preyah Te Ubhe Nanarte Purusham Sinitaha Tayo Shreya Adadanasya Sadhu Bhavati Hiyate Rithadya Upreyo Vrinite. That's the first verse. He says, okay, these two are different. The good is one thing, the truly good is one thing, and the pleasant is another. And both of these lead to different results, different ends. And both bind a person by guiding their action. And it goes well with that person who chooses the good. It goes well with that person. But the person who chooses the merely pleasant loses the goal, loses the way. Then he gives the second verse. Shreyascha preyascha manushyametaha tau samparitya vivinakti dhiraha shreyo hi dhiro bhi preyaso vrinite preyo mando yogakshemad vrinite. So he describes how Shreyas and Preyas, this preferable and pleasurable, approach us, approach all human beings constantly. We are constantly faced with this choice between Shreyas and Preyas, between the preferable and the pleasurable, between perennial joy and passing pleasure. And the calm person, the wise person, examines them, looks at them closely, analyzes them, discerns how they lead to different goals, and chooses the preferable, the good, the truly good. Whereas the fools, the idiots, the mandaha, the person who doesn't have a clear brain, chooses the pleasant, chooses the merely pleasant. Why? Craving for maintaining what he or she has and for getting more things, for maintaining and getting yogakshema. So here we see Nachiketa is a model for us. And what is really appealing about his character is that he could so clearly understand what is the right path for me. I don't want the passing pleasures, I want the eternal truth. Now, for us students of Vedanta, really this is, so it speaks to us because we are trying to fix our life's goal as the highest goal that we can conceive of, which is to know our true nature, to know who we truly are. To know that our true nature is infinite consciousness and bliss. That we are ever united with the infinite source of love. I say we're trying to fix our goal on that because we forget. And if our goal is constantly shining before our mind's eye, if we are totally dedicated to it, then actually this choice between the preferable and the pleasurable is simple. It's inconsequential. It happens naturally. It's because we have conflicting goals. We haven't fully dedicated ourselves to this idea that we are, who we really are, is one with God, one with the divine. We find difficulty unleashing our power to choose the good over the merely pleasant. So, this power of discernment, the term is viveka. Yama explains how the wise person applies discernment when faced with these kinds of choices. This is to be awakened. And when we can truly see clearly, it becomes easy. And yet that seeing clearly, it becomes covered up. It becomes covered up. What do we really want? Each and every minute, each and every moment, we can take the choice to be in the presence of the divine, to attend to the here and now, and know that we are pure consciousness, that we have the power to choose to think of the divine every moment, and to feel the presence of the divine in every being. We can consciously choose the eternal over the ephemeral. Along with this, if we are going to succeed in this wonderful project, we also need to strengthen the power of will. Unleash the power of will to overcome these tendencies that we have to just drift off into unconscious living. It's a dynamic aspect of our discerning power that turns into not only do we discern, but then we actively choose and we do. We're really talking about habits of mind. We're not talking about physical things so much as how do we think, and that then manifests as how do we speak and how do we act. There's a funny little comedy bit that Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian, I think most of you probably heard of him, a very gifted comedian, who, as it turns out, is also a meditator. He's a daily, regular meditator. He practices in the TM tradition. And he has a very funny bit about night guy and morning guy. And he says, night guy always wrecks it for morning guy. Night guy just spoils it and ruins morning guy's day. Because what happens? Night guy is up late watching TV. He's watching the reruns on TV and snacking on junk food and drinking beer or Coke or something like that. And he goes to bed at 2 a.m. And when the thought comes, well, got to go to work tomorrow. Well, that's morning guy's problem. I'm night guy. I'm night guy. I'm having a good time. Now, come morning, the alarm goes at 6 in the morning, and morning guy wakes up and he's like, oh, God. How I feel terrible. That night guy is ruining it for me. Why can't he behave himself? It's as if there are two people, night guy and morning guy. Night guy is the guy who chooses prayas. He chooses the pleasurable. He's having a good time. He doesn't want to think about tomorrow. It's morning guy who then has to suffer the consequences. So we're really like that. When we choose prayas, we end up suffering like morning guy. When we choose shreyas, then things go really smoothly. So this is our power of choice. And it's true, at night, actually, when we're tired, it's harder to exercise that power of choice. When we're tired, that plate of brownies, Jerry has another bit about, he says, nobody eats a whole plate of brownies in the morning. There's a plate of brownies on the counter in the morning. Nobody eats it in the morning. He says, oh, that's there, right? But we come home late at night, we're tired, exhausted, ready to go to bed, and then we see that plate of brownies. It's like, oh. And, before we know it, the whole plate is gone. We understand this, in the monastery, sometimes someone will bring over a plate of brownies, and nobody knows how. It disappears, but it disappears. Even monks, that plate of brownies, it doesn't last more than a couple of hours. Nobody knows who eats them because we don't see it. It's when nobody else is around that someone comes in and just grabs it, comes back, grabs another one. So where's our power of choice? This, coming up, New Year's is coming up, and many of us feel like, it's a fresh start. And we make a New Year's resolution. Now with the new year, everything is fresh. We are going to turn over a new leaf and really live rightly. And then what happens? Mostly, those resolutions, they don't last long. They don't last long. We made a conscious choice when the New Year's Day, we made a conscious choice, I'm going to do this. But we forget that to unleash the power to choose, we have to continually do it. We have to continually choose Shreyas over Preyas. We have to continually choose to say, no, I don't need to eat another brownie. I need to just keep going. They're so hard to keep because of this power of tendencies. And really, a lot of it boils down to this deep craving for ease and pleasure. And it's natural to a body. All bodies have this craving for pleasure, for ease, for comfort. The higher goal of life has not yet sunk in deeply. And this is really the tragedy. And it's illustrated by Arjuna's counterpart on the bad guy's side in the battle, Duryodhana, the leader of the Kauravas. And Sri Krishna also went to Duryodhana to tell him, hey, what you're doing is wrong. Arjuna is your own cousin. You've got to live together and work together. And Duryodhana says, I don't want to hear it. I know. It's fascinating. He says, I know what is right. I know what I should do. I don't feel like doing it. That's my problem. I don't have the problem with knowing what's right and wrong. I know what's right. I don't feel like doing it. And I know what's wrong. I know what's wrong, but I don't feel like desisting from doing it. I just keep doing it, even though I know it's wrong. It's a Sanskrit verse, a famous verse. Let me read it. Janami dharmam nacha me pravrittihi janamya dharmam nacha me nivrittihi kenapi dehena hridisthitena yatha niyuktos mitatha karomi. So he says, I know what is dharma, the right thing to do. I don't have any inclination to do it, and I know what is adharma, what is wicked, but I don't have any inclination not to do it. And then he blames it on God. He says, see, God, there's some kind of power inside me that is forcing me to do these things. I'm not master of myself. I am impelled by this force within me, some kind of divine force. So he blames it on God. We know. This is the tragedy of humanity. Most people know, there are very few people who don't know in their heart of hearts what is right and what is wrong. We know. But we don't have any inclination to do what is right. We don't have any disinclination to do what is wrong. But we shouldn't blame God. We can blame ourselves, blame our own past actions. Because what is a habit? A habit is nothing but a repeated action. And the first time we did something, we made a conscious choice to do it. And maybe the second time. And then it becomes a habit. And we keep doing it. And we are drawn helplessly by our own habits. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about how to work on habits, developing good habits, choosing good habits and continuing to choose them. And we'll take a little help from current psychological research. One problem that we have when trying to, say, stick to a New Year's resolution is that we've fixed a goal that is really kind of unattainable. And it applies in our goal of God realization too. We say, I want to realize God, that's a goal for me. But actually, how do we get there from here? It's almost unattainable. Or say, on a more prosaic level, I want to lose 50 pounds. 50 pounds is a lot. Most of us, how would we lose 50 pounds or gain 50 pounds, whatever the case may be? If a goal seems unattainable, it's not real to us. And we'll find it very difficult to motivate ourselves to work at it. So, what management philosophy says is you need that big goal, you need that overarching goal of God realization, or losing 50 pounds, or putting a man on the moon, or making that $1 billion. You need that higher goal, but you also need subsidiary goals to get you there. So in the case of losing 50 pounds, your first goal is lose 2 pounds. And they call the big goal as stretch goals. You need a stretch goal. And for us, of course, we can say, take it to realize my true nature. Then we also need what they call SMART goals. And it's an acronym. They are specific, S, specific, M, measurable, A, actionable, R, relevant, and T, time-bound. So say our stretch goal is to realize God. And what would a SMART goal be? Something we can attain? Well, really a practice of meditation. The Swamis keep saying that meditation is important. All right, I want to start a meditation practice. At least 10 minutes every day I will meditate. Okay? So it's specific. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to start a meditation practice. 10 minutes every day. I'm going to do it first thing in the morning at 6 in the morning. That's a specific. It's measurable. I can actually understand when I actually started doing this. All right, so it's actionable. I've decided to set my alarm for 5:45. Get up, wash up, sit from 6 to 6:10. I've done my meditation. I've set aside this time. We have to figure out how we're going to do it. We'll have to shave off some time somewhere else. Maybe instead of reading the newspaper for 20 minutes, or nowadays I guess people read it on their device, read the news on their device for 20 minutes, read it for 10 minutes and meditate for 10 minutes. So it's actionable, it's measurable. I can see, am I actually doing it? Yes. It's very relevant. It's relevant to my overarching goal of God realization, but it's something I can attain. And it's time-bound. I'll set a goal. Within 1 month, I should have established this habit of every day meditating at 6 o'clock in the morning. And it works. It's an attainable goal. That once we become established in that, then we can understand that 10 minutes is really not that long. It's not really long enough to make much progress in meditation. We need to extend that. So the next goal will be make it 20 minutes. Likewise, we can apply this in so many different areas of our life. Now, another fascinating, the study of how habits work is, the neuroscientists have done some very fascinating research on it. And they see that a habit, when we have a habit, either a good habit or a bad habit, it works like this. There is a cue that kicks the habit in. And then the habit itself is a certain routine that we go through. And then there's a reward. And this habit loop is fueled by craving for that reward. And they test it with rats running in mazes and looking for chocolate rewards at the end of the maze and that kind of thing. And they've learned that when the habit loop kicks in, when the routine kicks in, the brain shuts down. It becomes unconscious. Once the cue starts the habit, it becomes unconscious. So like the cue is seeing that plate of brownies, and once the routine kicks in, eating the brownies, it becomes unconscious. And the reward, well, that immediate pleasure of eating brownies, if we're talking about brownies. See the red lights shining, lighting up on the car in front of you? That's the cue. The habit is the foot moves to the brake. The reward, I'm safe. I'm slowing down the car. Everything's all right. So routines can be mental or emotional as well. My wife tells me I should be losing some weight. I get angry and snap back at her. Or I go and eat a brownie in front of her. See? Why? The cue, wife is criticizing, nagging me. The routine, I get angry. The reward, I get an adrenaline rush from that anger. Or I eat a brownie The reward, I'm asserting my individuality, my so-called individuality. Right. Or, I remember how that kid in 11th grade insulted me. That's the cue. The routine, the habit is thinking of how I should have slugged him, you know? Should have slugged him. The reward, some kind of twisted satisfaction that, oh, I had my way. So, we can hack these habits. We can change these habits. The key is to understand that the cue will remain the same. And because we get these cues of this plate of brownies will still be there. The memory of Jack in 11th grade who insulted me is still there. It will still come up. But I change the routine. And the reward also comes. The new routine should provide an equivalent reward. And this is, I'll try to make this brief. It's an interesting anecdote from Charles Duhigg, who wrote a book called The Power of Habit. He discusses habits at length. He's a gifted writer, a journalist with the New York Times. And he noted in his book that he had developed the habit of going for a chocolate chip cookie every day in the cafeteria. He'd go amble down to the cafeteria and eat a chocolate chip cookie and chat with his friends. And then he noticed that he was gaining weight. He had gained, in fact, 8 pounds, and his wife was also starting to comment about it, that he's gained some weight and it would be a good thing to lose it. And so he realized, well, this habit of eating a chocolate chip cookie is not helping me. So he resolved to stop it. And yet, every day he'd find that there he was again, eating that chocolate chip cookie. And then he'd feel bad and say, oh, damn, I did it again. Okay, tomorrow. I won't do it tomorrow. But then tomorrow, in spite of himself, there he was again, eating that chocolate chip cookie. So he developed, or maybe the habit psychologist developed this kind of system for addressing this kind of habit. A 4-step system. First, identify the routine, then experiment with different rewards, isolate the cue, and implement a plan. So the routine is easy. The routine was he'd get up from his desk or from wherever he was, and he'd go down to the cafeteria, eat a chocolate chip cookie, and gossip with his friends at the cash registers, and then come back. And so what reward was he getting from this? And he experimented with different rewards. And we can do this with whatever habit we have. Why was he doing this? Well, maybe he was hungry. If he's hungry, then eating an apple, which wouldn't contribute to weight gain, should have the same effect of satisfying him, of giving the reward, and he wouldn't need to go for it. So he tried that. He tried eating an apple. 15 minutes later, he still wants to go have that chocolate chip cookie. Okay, so he's not hungry. Maybe he's tired. Then a cup of coffee should do the same, have the same effect as the sugar rush of the chocolate chip cookie. So he tried that, drinking a cup of coffee. He still wanted that chocolate chip cookie. Maybe he needs a break from work. He tried going for a walk around the block. No, he still wanted the cookie. Then he thought, maybe it's the social interaction, his gossiping with friends that he really wants. So he tried that. And he found that this was actually what he was craving. What he really wanted was not the chocolate chip cookie. It was some social interaction, some light social interaction. So he was very methodical about it. He would write down his feelings. When the craving would come to get the cookie, he would try one of the alternatives. Then he would write down how he felt. 15 minutes later, he would check in, do I still crave the cookie? And after the social interaction, he found, no, I'm good now, I'm good. So he was able to establish that what he craved was the social interaction. And then he took more research to isolate the cue. Every time he would feel the urge to have the cookie, he would look at 5 categories. Where was he? What time was it? What was his emotional state? Who else was around? And what was he doing just before? And he'd write all this down. So he did it for about 3-4 days. And he found that there was only one thing common every day, and that was the time of day. It was about 3:30 in the afternoon. So he implemented this plan to substitute a different routine. At 3:30, He would set his alarm, he would get up from his desk, go find a buddy, and chit-chat about whatever, gossip for 10 minutes or so, and then come back to his desk. And within a few weeks, he had established this new habit, and pretty soon he didn't even need the alarm. At 3:30 or so, he would just get up, go find a friend, and chit-chat for 10 minutes, and go back to his desk. He had kicked this habit by changing the routine. The cue was still there, I want something, and the reward was still there, a satisfaction. But the routine was different. Instead of going and eating a chocolate chip cookie and gossiping with friends, he would go hang out with a friend at the friend's desk. So it's a clever way of dealing with a bad habit, but at the same time, it's a little bit unsatisfying, to me at least. It seems so prosaic because there's no higher goal involved here. And I kind of feel like if Duhigg was a meditator, he wouldn't have had to take up this kind of elaborate system of kicking the chocolate chip cookie habit. He could have consciously met that afternoon urge. He could have effectively chosen Shreyas over Preyas without doing all these kind of experiments. So from our standpoint, we want to add something to it. Here the goal was just to stop eating a cookie. What we want is to choose all our actions, all our habits, so that they lead towards greater freedom, greater peace of mind, greater connection with God, greater unfoldment of our own divinity. I think that adds a strong motivation for overcoming unhelpful habits, when we can fix our goal more clearly. Now, we're kind of running out of time. I was hoping to suggest that this formula that Duhigg discovered for replacing a routine with another one can be applied in the case of mental habits also. Say we're having trouble with a particular thought pattern. I remember how Jack insulted me in 11th grade, and I have that thought pattern. I already joked about it, and I should have slugged him. But it's not exactly a joke, because we do have these routines in our minds. How to, maybe it's not 11th grade, but maybe it's last week, how someone at work insulted me, and I keep running over it in my mind. How to change it? We identify the routine. We identify the cue. I remember that guy at work. I identify the routine. I think nasty thoughts about him. I identify the reward. I get some kind of twisted satisfaction for insulting him back, which I didn't do in actuality, but I imagined doing it. And what do? We then substitute a different routine. I remember how he insulted me. I substitute forgiveness. I substitute praying for him. I substitute feeling that he is blessed by the Divine Mother who is seated in his heart, and he is attaining peace of mind. And the reward is similar, but it's actually much better. Now the reward I get is I feel good. I feel deeply satisfied. I feel at peace. Actually, yoga psychology has taught this method for thousands of years. It's nothing new. Only now Duhigg has put it in the modern psychological language, so it appeals to us. But yoga psychology has taught this for thousands of years and calls it Pratipaksha Bhavanam, raising an opposite thought. It's a very effective way of dealing with unwanted thought patterns. We have the power to choose. We have the power to, if we can recognize this is an unhelpful thought pattern, I can choose a different thought pattern and substitute it. So we can develop these little habits of thought. I have a friend who has a wonderful habit. Whenever a negative thought is expressed, either by herself, some kind of criticism or thought of something bad happening, she'll just automatically say, cancel that. Oh, cancel that. We would be talking about something and some negative thing, and it'll cancel that. And so I wonder, it's become a habit. she has cultivated this habit of counteracting negative thoughts and negative, in a very simple way. Cancel that and then dropping it. I'm going to go a little over time because there's one wonderful story about Swami Swahanandaji. Many of you know him, I'm sure. He was the previous head of our center. And this was in 2000, no, it was probably in 1998 or so, when the vice president of the Ramakrishna order, who was Swami Atmasthananda, who became the president afterwards, he was visiting. And he was a big Swami. Our Swami Swahananda was also a big Swami. When I say big Swami, I mean they had a gravitas. They had something, we feel something great about them. And they were a little bit rivals. Before they had been a little bit rivals, both disciples of Swami Vijnanananda. And Swami Swahanandaji was a little bit nervous about his visit. He wanted everything to go perfectly smoothly so that he would have a good visit, everything would be good. And one thing is, Swami Atmasthananda couldn't bear to eat anything sour. He had some, and I know other people who have that. Sour fruits, they can't bear them. Other people love them. So he has that. So we were instructed, do not give him anything sour, especially not sour yogurt. Give him sweet yogurt. And there was a special recipe for making mishti doi, it's called, sweet curd. And that was to be served to him. Well, lunch is there at the Trabuco Monastery where I joined. I was a novice there, just been there a year or so. And we're putting out the lunch, and it's a big hectic thing, and all the food is going out. And I'm in the kitchen, and Swami Atmasthananda's assistant, who's also a Swami, he's also in the kitchen. And I know that Indian Swamis, they like to eat yogurt with their meal. So I suggest to the assistant, should I send some yogurt out? And oh, yes, he likes yogurt, sure. So I grab the container of Trader Joe's non-fat yogurt, which is very sour, and I put a little bowl of sour yogurt and I send it out. So what happens is, I didn't know about the sweet yogurt business. I wasn't told. So of course the Swami takes one bite of the yogurt and he goes, ah, sour, and he pushes it away. And Swami Swahanandaji was really upset. And after lunch, I was walking with him on the road. And this is the point of the story. He was walking and he started saying, I told Viprananda not to give sour yogurt, and we gave a recipe for the sweet yogurt. He Ramakrishna, Hari Om, Hari Om. But I told him not to give any sour things. He had the recipe. He was to make the recipe. He Ramakrishna, Hari Om, Hari Om. But it was a simple thing, just to make the sweet curd. He Ramakrishna, Hari Om, Hari Om. See, he was troubled by a thought. He was being troubled by this problem that Swami Atmasthananda had been given the sour yogurt. In spite of his best intentions, he had tried to arrange the sweet yogurt. But every time these negative thoughts were coming up towards another monk, there was Swami Viprananda who had, he hadn't told me, and actually he did make the sweet curd, but it was served at supper, and so everything ended well. And it also ended well for me because I had never told Swami Swahananda that I was the one who put the yogurt out there. But the point is, look what he was working with his mind very effectively, and he would use that. He Ramakrishna means calling on God, calling on the Master. And then Hari Om, Hari Om. He would always chant that. And it was his way, I believe, of invoking that infinite existence, consciousness, bliss, which is our true nature. He would say Hari Om, and even we would feel some peace that yes, I am not a limited being caught in the meshes of Maya. I am an infinite soul, one with infinite bliss and love. So that is Swami Swahanandaji's anecdote, and there we'll have to stop. Today we have talked a little bit about unleashing the power to choose. Let us take inspiration from the great souls who show us how to do that. Thank you. Om Namaste Sharanye Shive Sanukampe Namaste Jagadvyapike Vishwarupe Namaste Jagadvanya Padarabinde, Namaste Jagatarini Trahi Durge. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Mritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, O Mother, we bow to you who are the refuge of us all, you who are the ever-blessed Mother, ever showering your grace on us, your children. We bow to you who are everywhere and in everything, who has taken the form of the universe. We bow to you, Mother, whose blessed lotus feet are worshipped by all the world. We bow to you, Mother, you who carry all of us across the ocean of this world. O Mother, protect us and lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace.